Okay, so learning English. Huh. It can be exciting,
For sure.
but also kind of a roller coaster sometimes, right?
Definitely.
All those grammar rules, the new words, it can feel overwhelming.
Yeah, totally. But that's exactly why we're doing this deep dive.
Yeah. We're looking at this source that breaks down those common mistakes English learners make.
And it's really cool because it kind of reminds you you're not alone.
Exactly. Like everyone trips up on the same things.
Yeah.
So what's the first hurdle?
Well, this source jumps right into something a lot of learners struggle with.
Oh, okay.
Getting stuck on grammar, like thinking, if I just memorize all the rules, I'll be fluent.
Right, but it doesn't always work like that, does it?
No, it's like reading a cookbook, you know? Doesn't make you a chef.
Uh-huh. Exactly.
The source actually uses a similar example. Someone tried learning English just from a textbook, memorizing all the verb tenses.
Oh, wow.
But when they actually tried to speak, they just froze up.
They knew the rules but couldn't use them.
Right,
Yeah.
exactly.
So what's the solution then? How do you actually get to using the grammar?
Well, the source emphasizes practical usage.
Okay.
You got to get out there and speak, make mistakes, learn from them.
So it's about using it in real life,
Yeah.
not just studying the rules.
Exactly. Like learning an instrument, you wouldn't just read sheet music, you'd play it.
That makes sense.
You have to actually use the language.
Yeah, okay, cool. Now what about vocabulary?
Yeah.
We've all been there, staring at those long lists of words, trying to cram them into our brains.
Rote memorization, the source calls it. And it's not very effective. You might recognize the word, but can you actually use it?
I remember when I was learning Italian,
Oh, yeah.
I memorized all these food words, thought I'd be ordering like a pro,
Aha, yeah.
got to the restaurant, totally blanked.
That's exactly what the source is talking about.
Oh, no.
It's about learning words in context, see them in sentences, stories, real-life situations.
So like reading books, watching movies.
Yes. And the source even suggests keeping a notebook, when you see a new word,
Right.
write it down in a sentence from the book or movie.
So you're not just learning the word, but how it's used.
Exactly.
Makes sense. Now, another thing a lot of learners struggle with is speaking and listening practice.
Mm-hmm.
We often focus more on reading and writing.
It's true.
Why do we tend to neglect those skills?
Mm-hmm.
And how can we make them a bigger part of learning?
Well, it's interesting, isn't it? We spend hours reading or writing, but speaking can be scary.
Yeah.
I think it's fear. Fear of making mistakes, sounding silly.
That fear of everyone staring at you and you can't get the words out.
Yeah, exactly. And the source really stresses pushing past that fear and practicing,
Right.
like even just 10 minutes a day listening to a podcast or chatting with someone online.
Even small things can make a difference over time.
Yeah, the source talks about this cool idea. They call it the fluency loop.
Oh, what's that?
The more you listen, the easier it becomes to speak. And the more you speak, the better you understand.
So it all builds on itself.
Exactly. It's a cycle.
Okay, I like that.
Now, this next one I'm definitely guilty of.
Oh, what is it?
Grabbing the dictionary every time I see a new word.
Oh, yeah, that's tempting.
Dictionaries are great, but the source says constantly looking up words can actually make it harder to understand.
Like you lose track of what you're reading?
Yes, exactly. It's like pausing a movie every few seconds.
Right. You miss the whole story.
The source suggests trying to guess the meaning from the context.
Like a puzzle.
Exactly. It helps you understand the word better and remember it.
So instead of just memorizing the definition, you're figuring it out.
Right.
Now, the last hurdle we'll talk about today might resonate with a lot of learners.
Oh, okay. What's that?
Relying too much on our native language,
Yeah.
Translating everything in our heads.
Oh, yeah, that can be tricky.
Is that holding us back?
It can be. The source says translating is okay at the beginning,
Right.
but constantly switching back and forth can slow you down in the long run.
Clive, trying to listen to 2 songs at once.
Exactly. The source suggests training your brain to think directly in English.
But how do you even do that?
It might feel weird at first, but start small.
Okay.
Like think about your grocery list in English or the clothes you're wearing.
So just little things throughout the day.
Yes, immerse yourself in the language.
I like that.
And as you get comfortable, you can start thinking in English for more complex things.
So building up that skill gradually.
Exactly.
What I really appreciate about this source is it doesn't just point out the mistakes. It gives you solutions.
I agree. It's about giving learners the tools to improve.
So let's quickly recap the hurdles we've talked about today.
Okay, sounds good.
We started with grammar, not letting the rules become a roadblock.
Yeah.
Then vocabulary, learning it in context, not just memorizing lists.
And then speaking and listening, practicing consistently, and that fluency loop idea.
Right. And then we talked about dictionaries, resisting that urge to look up every word.
And using context clues instead.
Exactly. And finally, that tendency to translate everything and how to start thinking in English.
Lots of great stuff to think about.
Now, the source goes even further and talks about some broader strategies for language learning.
Yeah, it's really
I'm
interesting.
excited to dive into those next.
Me too. Yeah, so it talks about this idea of making language learning, well, fun.
Oh, that's important.
Right. It shouldn't feel like a chore.
Exactly. If you don't enjoy it, you're not going to stick with it.
Exactly. So the source suggests thinking about things you already enjoy and finding ways to use English with them.
Okay, I like that.
So if you love movies, watch them in English with subtitles.
Right. Or listen to music, read books.
Yeah, anything that interests you, make it part of your routine.
Being a natural part of your life.
Exactly.
The source also talks about setting realistic goals.
Mm-hmm. Don't try to do too much at once.
Small steps.
Yeah, and celebrate those little victories.
But how do you know if you're making progress?
That's where tracking comes in. The source suggests keeping a journal or using a language learning app,
Oh, okay.
so you can see how far you've come.
And it can help you see where you need to focus more.
Exactly, like if you're struggling with a certain grammar point.
Right.
Now, another thing the source highlights is finding a language partner or a group.
Oh, yeah, that's a good idea.
You can practice together, learn from each other.
It's like having a support system.
Exactly, and don't be afraid to ask for help if you need it.
From a teacher or a tutor?
Yeah, or even other learners.
It's okay to ask for help.
Absolutely. And finally, this is a really important point.
Okay.
Don't be afraid of making mistakes.
Everyone makes mistakes.
Right. And actually, our brains learn more from our mistakes than from our successes.
Really?
Yeah, it's fascinating.
Yeah.
So see mistakes as opportunities to learn.
It takes the pressure off, right?
Yeah, just have fun with it.
So it's all about the journey.
Exactly. Enjoy the process.
I like that.
So as we wrap up our deep dive today, I want to leave you with this. What steps will you take to improve your English fluency?
That's a great question for everyone to think about. And that's it for our deep dive into English language learning.
Thanks for joining us.
We hope you learned some helpful tips, keep exploring, keep practicing, and most importantly, have fun.
See you next time.
Okay, so we've covered the hurdles, those common mistakes.
Yeah.
But now let's talk about the fun part, how to actually make language learning enjoyable.
Right, because if it feels like a chore, you're not going to keep doing it.
Exactly. It's
Yeah.
like if going to the gym felt like punishment, who would go?
Exactly. So how do we make it fun?
Well, the source suggests thinking about what you already enjoy and finding ways to use English with those things.
Oh, that's smart.
Yeah, like if you love movies, watch them in English.
With subtitles.
Exactly. Or listen to music, read books.
Anything you're interested in.
Make it part of your life, not just a separate thing you have to do.
I like that.
The source also mentioned setting realistic goals.
Oh, yeah, that's important.
Don't try to learn everything at once.
Take it slow.
Small steps, and celebrate those small wins.
Definitely. But how do you know if you're actually making progress?
Well, that's where tracking comes in. The source talks about keeping a journal or using a language learning app.
Oh, okay.
So you can look back and see how far you've come.
And see what areas you need to work on.
Exactly. And speaking of support, the source also recommends finding a language partner or a group.
Oh, that's a great idea.
Yeah. You can practice together, help each other out.
Like a study buddy.
Yeah. And if you ever get stuck, don't be afraid to ask for help.
From a teacher, a tutor.
Anyone who can guide you.
It's okay to ask for help.
Absolutely. And this leads to one of the most important points the source makes.
Oh, what's that?
Don't be afraid of mistakes.
Everyone makes them.
It's part of the process.
And actually, you know what's interesting?
Why?
Our brains learn more from our mistakes than from our successes.
Really? That's kind of cool.
It is. So don't see mistakes as failures. See them as opportunities to learn.
It takes the pressure off.
For sure. Just relax and have fun with it.
So as we wrap up this deep dive,
Yeah.
remember, learning a language is a journey.
It has its ups and downs.
But it's all about the process. Enjoy it.
And keep learning.
That's it for today. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive into English language learning.
We hope you found it helpful.
And remember, keep exploring, keep practicing, and most importantly, have fun with it.